Through 12 grueling waves of attack, Hive Fleet Behemoth nearly crippled Macragge's orbital defenses. The Ultramarines' homeworld was surrounded as thousands of mycetic spores rained down upon the surface. The two polar fortresses became the primary targets of the Tyranid onslaught. Despite heavy losses, the swarm's attempt to decapitate the Imperial command had failed. Chapter Master Marneus Calgar, having been evacuated to the surviving ships in orbit, regained consciousness and refused all but essential medical care. Driven by his superhuman resilience and iron will, the Master of Macragge returned to his post. The Ultramarines' only remaining option was to stall for time, hoping for Imperial reinforcements to breach the shadow in the warp. Calgar organized his remaining vessels to launch a counterattack against the bioships looming over the planet, providing whatever cover he could for the desperate defenders at the poles. Suddenly, the Hive fleet began a massive withdrawal from Macragge's orbit toward the outer reaches of the system. On the surface, however, the Tyranid ground forces continued their methodical siege. The hive mind intended to lure the remaining Imperial fleet away from the planet to prevent interference with the ground invasion and to attempt another decapitation strike against the human commander. Though he sensed the trap, Calgar accepted the challenge, knowing that a diversionary battle was his best chance to buy time for reinforcements. Chasing the swarm to the gas giant Circe, Calgar found a second Tyranid fleet lying in ambush. Just as the Imperial ships were being attacked, a relief force of over 200 warships from the Segmentum Tempestus, led by Lord Admiral Rath, finally broke through the psychic shadow. The arrival of these fresh forces instantly reversed the tide, catching the Tyranids in a lethal pincer. Despite being outnumbered 3-1, the Imperial forces successfully routed the swarm, securing a preliminary victory. With the immediate threat managed, the Ultramarines raced back to Macragge to support the ground garrisons, with the relief fleet close behind. However, a massive wave of Tyranid reinforcements, hundreds of bioships, entered the system to intercept them. Lord Admiral Rath realized that his fleet could not win a standard engagement and chose a path of noble sacrifice. He used his flagship as bait to draw the bulk of the Hive fleet's fire, allowing the Ultramarines to bypass the blockade.
As the bioships closed in, Rath ordered his remaining vessels to withdraw before detonating his flagship's warp drive. The resulting explosion tore a rift in reality, dragging the vast majority of the Tyranid bioships into the Empyrean. Only a handful of enemy vessels survived the cataclysm. This Pyrrhic victory finally broke the Tyranid hold over Macragge's space. Upon returning to Macragge, Calgar found all communication with the polar fortresses severed. The 3rd and 7th Companies were dispatched as a vanguard to investigate. At the southern fortress, they discovered a charnel house. The ground was carpeted with the broken remains of Imperial soldiers and Tyranid monsters, and the defensive batteries were reduced to smoldering ruins. After a thorough search, they managed to find a handful of survivors still holding their positions in the lower reaches. The northern fortress, however, told a darker story. The 3rd Company was ambushed by hundreds of Tyranid organisms the moment they landed. After fighting their way into the sublevels with the support of Thunderhawk gunships and 3 dreadnoughts, they discovered the ultimate fate of the First Company. Every single veteran, including Captain Saul Invictus, had been killed. They were found near Silo 8, surrounded by mountains of Tyranid corpses. The veterans of the First Company had fulfilled their oaths, holding the line to the last man. Having suffered a crushing blow at Macragge, Hive Fleet Behemoth changed its strategy, splintering into smaller tendrils that scattered across the galaxy. These smaller fleets proved to be more flexible, adapting their evolution to face diverse enemies. The Imperium, through these battles, realized that the Tyranids were not merely mindless beasts. The hive mind would withdraw if the consumption of a world proved too costly in terms of biomass. A notable example was the defense of Daugal Helix, where the Adeptus Mechanicus successfully repelled an invasion by igniting the atmosphere with combustible chemicals, forcing the hungry fleet to move on. Following the cleanup of Ultimar, which required the assistance of several companies from the Blood Angels, Marneus Calgar recognized the ongoing severity of the threat. On the advice of Chaplain Orton Cassius, he established the Tyranic War Veterans, an elite organization of warriors who had survived encounters with the swarm.
Equipped with specialized weapons and armor, these veterans would prove vital in the centuries to come, often seconded to the Death Watch to provide expert guidance against the Great Devourer. For the next 150 years, the Imperium stumbled forward through a gauntlet of Tyranid incursions, Xenos raiders, and chaos threats. While the shadow of the Hive fleets grew longer, a new and ancient danger began to stir. After 60 million years of slumber in their tomb worlds, the ancient Necrons began to awaken. In 897 M41, the Imperium had its first massive encounter with these terrifying metallic horrors. Utilizing technology that appeared like sorcery, these masters of living metal possessed the power to warp the very laws of physics. They are the overlords of the past, an eternal curse returned to reclaim the galaxy. In this age of ending, the universe has become more dangerous than ever before. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.